Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hivemind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And of course, here's the meme of the day, brought to you by Hivemind.com. Okay, well, it's been a really interesting news cycle, to say the least, over the last little while. But if you thought that it couldn't get any better, or I guess any worse, looking back at some of the stuff that we've been covering, you thought, I guess, it couldn't get any crazier. Well, it just did. We're now getting news that the Trump administration has officially raided Fulton County's election hub in Georgia. Yeah, the exact same place where there was a mysterious midnight pipe burst, and then a bunch of boxes of ballots were moved in, going basically 100% for Joe Biden flipping the election overnight. Well, the FBI is now swooping in. This just happened yesterday morning on January 28th, 2026, and allegedly it's a probe connected to fraud in the 2020 election. Yeah, let's just say we might be running Christmas back here. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on, but first, this video is brought to you guys by a sponsor, so let's play that clip. This video is brought to you guys by American Hartford Gold. Donald Trump is back in the White House, and America is on track to make the biggest economic revival in history. The economy is likely to surge, investment is pouring in, and confidence is returning. And in times like these, it's important to invest properly, and that, my friends, is where American Hartford Gold steps in. Because as we all know, one of the best ways to protect your wealth is by investing in precious metals, that's gold and silver. And friends, American Hartford Gold is simply the best in the business when it comes to protecting you from economic downturns. They have 5-star ratings across the board with an A+ rating at the Better Business Bureau. In other words, they're a market leader in the space, helping Americans lock in their financial security by diversifying into real tangible assets. And I know that sounds good, but trust me, it gets even better. All you gotta do is give them a call and they'll send physical gold and silver straight to your doorstep, or they can help you add it to your IRA or 401k. Zero hassle, just smart investing. Actually, it gets even better because American Hartford Gold is currently running a special right now where you could get up to $15,000 in free silver on qualifying purchases. So what are you guys waiting for? Sure, things look like they're on the up and up right now, but history tells you it doesn't last forever. The incompetent buffoons will at some point bring on hard times, and you gotta protect yourself. And so to get that process started, all you gotta do is call 844-440-1005. That's 844-440-1005, or text Hivemind, that's Hivemind one word, to 65532. Again, text Hivemind to 65532, and they'll get you guys set on the right track. A huge thank you to American Hartford Gold. Now back to the video. All right, folks, so I guess what else can I say other than it's happening?
FBI agents are on site at a Fulton County election office in Georgia, where they are conducting a search.
This is a satellite office for the Fulton County Elections Office. The FBI Atlanta press office confirming this, not giving many details, saying that the FBI is executing a court-authorized law enforcement action. No other details at this time, but we do know via sources a judge signed off on this warrant, allowing these agents, as you see them, enter this building to take items from the inside. Now, we're told that this is a sealed matter before the court, meaning details are now limited. Now, agents are looking at documents, phones, computers. We are told via multiple sources this is related to the 2020 presidential election. Now, we don't know specifically what agents are taking to the FBI lab, items that may eventually become part of a federal case. It's important to point out, Sandra, that a judge typically would not just sign off on a warrant so the FBI could go on what's known as a fishing expedition. It's likely the FBI and DOJ presented some credible evidence to the judge for the judge to go ahead and give the green light.
And according to the report that I'm reading, quote, it's likely the FBI and DOJ have presented credible evidence of fraud to a judge. Yeah, obviously, a search warrant like this, an FBI raid, isn't coming out of nowhere. Well, that is now that Merrick Garland's not in charge of the frickin' DOJ. And I gotta tell you, it's high time. It's certainly late, but better late than never. The American people deserve answers. But of course, if you follow leftist accounts on social media, if you listen to the rhetoric coming from them, it's yet again another prime example of Trumpian fascism, right? Everything the left doesn't like is fascism as per usual. That seems to be the claim here. But I'm not exactly sure how a court-authorized warrant could now be spun as fascism. Yeah, obviously this isn't Donald Trump weaponizing the Fed against Democrats, but rather it's FBI Director Kash Patel following legal leads on potential irregularities. And you know what? The 2020 election was nothing but red flags and irregularities. And for years, they wanted you to shut up and not ask questions. Don't engage in the big lie. Ooh, spooky, the big lie. Are you a radical right-wing white supremacist engaging in the big lie? Well, there goes your frickin' Twitter account. Yeah, obviously that was never an acceptable standard. Or you could even argue lack of standard. Following the 2020 election, with multiple states going to Joe Biden by razor-thin margins, and then all the extenuating circumstances, let's say, the most radical thing that happened there wasn't the claims that something might have been a mess. Now, the most radical perspective is that the American people, in this case 50% of the population, didn't deserve answers. That was always the biggest slap in the face, the biggest insult. I mean, there are so many unresolved 2020 election claims, and many of them stem from Fulton County. Like videos of poll workers pulling suitcases of ballots after observers left, an alleged Maine water break that was used as an excuse to clear the rooms, then the magic spike of Biden votes, giving him the exact margin that he needed in the most competitive states. Well, it's time to finally know exactly what happened, and it appears the FBI is doing exactly that. And very simply, I don't think it's a crazy standard. I don't think this is fascism. No, voters, left or right, deserve straight answers on whether or not protocols were followed. We got claims in Georgia that over 300,000 ballots were illegitimate, yet they were processed anyways. Don't you think when you've got poll workers acting as whistleblowers, when you've got so many data scientists saying, yeah, this makes absolutely no sense what happened here, when you had pretty much all the election bellwethers pointing in the direction of a Trump win, and then Joe Biden, a freaking skeleton of a man who didn't even campaign, who didn't even exist, he was in the basement the entire time, all of a sudden he wins, and not only wins, but wins in the most spectacular fashion imaginable, with the most votes of any presidential candidate ever, when you've got all these videos of people engaging in ballot harvesting and showing up at ballot drop boxes in the middle of the night, dumping what appears to be clusters of ballots. Don't you think that the American people deserve to know exactly what happened? Well, I think, again, it should be bipartisan. Absolutely, the American people deserve answers, and for so long, the left has said, well, we got all the answers. Fact check false. Fact check false. Look at all the court cases. The audits were done. Give me a break. There were never real audits. We can't even get basic transparency from Democrats when it comes to voter registration and voter rolls. They're hiding the data from the feds. Even now, as it appears, Oregon's now being forced to purge over 800,000 ineligible voters from the rolls. We've got data suggesting people are voting in multiple states. We've got Democrats giving illegal immigrants driver's licenses and having a system that automatically registers them to vote. Those court cases were simply tossing these cases and claiming they had no merit. But when was a true full election audit done, looking to make sure that signatures matched, guaranteeing chain of custody? It never happened, and frankly, it probably would have been impossible, or it would have taken likely billions of dollars just to get the job done, because the election was of course not secure. Democrats worked their butts off, legally and in some cases illegitimately, illegally, unconstitutionally, relative to, of course, state constitutions, to change election laws before the election, to change the way elections work and allow these mass mail-in ballots to be sent out to everybody. Hundreds of thousands of mail-in ballots per big swing state. And so how do you even audit that? You then have to have every single mail-in ballot, track them one by one to ensure that the person who supposedly casted that ballot actually legitimately did. And that right there, folks, is a lot of on-the-ground work. Yeah, that never happened. A totally untrustworthy system. And really, that's been the demand since day one, not necessarily to overturn the election just based on what partisan Republicans are saying, though to actually get the truth, to answer those questions. Did Joe Biden actually win the 2020 election? Well, I don't think anybody could actually answer that. Well, I know all these mainstream media characters, they all make that declarative, definitive statement, no, Joe Biden won, there was no fraud. But if you're an actual honest human being, you cannot say that for certain. You cannot make that claim absolutely. And I sit here asking myself, why? Why is that the case? Don't you think, the issue of American democracy is an issue so sacred that it should have, some guarantee of legitimacy? Why is that such a controversial topic to all these left-wingers and mainstream media pundits? You're just supposed to assume that everything was done by the books, that all the mass mail-in ballots were totally legitimate and there was no issue of mass illegal voter harvesting? That's an unacceptable standard. Elections should be secure. They should be guaranteed. But Democrats are fighting tooth and nail against that. And, likely still to this day, Senator John Thune just confirmed that he's actually going to be moving forward with the SAVE Act.
Repeatedly urged the passing the SAVE Act as well as many MAGA Republicans. What is the holdup in the Senate? Why hasn't that been brought to the floor for a vote? And what's your stance on requiring approval of citizenship vote elections?
Well, I'm for that. I've co-sponsored the SAVE Act in the past. I think my understanding is that they are still modifying the bill. It includes right now a requirement that you be a citizen to register to vote, but it doesn't include a requirement that to vote you be a resident. So in other words, if you're going to have what we call voter ID or photo ID when somebody goes into the ballot box to vote, that's not currently covered in the bill. So that's being fixed and addressed, and I think the new bill that comes out hopefully will deal with that. But I mean, at some point we'll have that vote. I'm for it. I think most of our colleagues in the Senate are, and I don't, it hasn't had consideration in the relevant committee yet, but I know there's a high level of interest among our members in getting a vote on SAVE Act.
These are much needed election reforms that need to be passed. Federally mandating voter ID, doing away with this mass mail-in ballot stuff. These are important things to make sure that elections are secure and safe, but the Democrats are going to fight tooth and nail against that. They're going to claim voter suppression. You just don't want black people and whammons to vote in elections. It's an absolutely idiotic response, an idiotic standard, but probably more accurately, I think it's an unacceptable standard. It's wrong, it's incorrect, and it's also the exact opposite. It's counter to how the rest of the Western world, the rest of the democratic world operates. Every other country has these basic election integrity measures passed by law, but the Democrats don't want that for America. Well, what does that tell you? Well, I guess we might get answers here. Let's see where the FBI raid leads to. Let's see if everything is happening above board in corrupt Fulton County, one of the places on planet Earth. I'd unironically rather be in a third world nation than ever go back to Atlanta. Just had to get that jab in, but let's see what they're up to in Fulton County. Let's see if it's all above board. And then, of course, let's see where the facts lead and have that conversation, everything the Democrats are seemingly allergic to. I guess we'll see, but one thing's for sure, this is not fascism, no. This is what the American people deserve. The American people deserve transparency. They deserve to understand what's going on in their democratic systems, to have faith and trust that the process is legitimate. This is going to be real interesting. Anyways, that's what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.